This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. There he is. How you feeling on a beautiful Friday, my friend?
Feeling great, getting ready to leave to Charlotte on Sunday for the coaching convention. So I'll be up there talking to guys, schmoozing with some of the college and high school coaches and whoever else is around, and trying to get a feel for what could be some changes here for Miami staff, hopefully.
Also, now you think here's where the changes happen.
Yeah, I mean, I told you a few weeks ago, I thought, after the coaching convention and the end of the NFL season, that's probably when we'd see some movement. And last night I was tipped off a little bit that some stuff might be happening down the road. So we'll see who ends up going, but I suspect this is the start of it.
Josh Gattis?
I think most people feel that way, right? I mean, the offense wasn't a good fit. It was one of the worst in the country this past season. I know it wasn't necessarily all his fault. Personnel wasn't very good. Offensive line wasn't very good.
You say it wasn't a fit. I say it sucked. But go ahead.
Well, I'll say this. I think everybody who just thinks Josh Gattis sucks as a coach is wrong. I mean, the guy won the Broyles Award. He was a part of a good Michigan team. Whether or not, that was a product of Michigan being good and him just being along for the ride is a question people have. But I think, look, he won the Broyles Award. You can't take that away from him. I just think for whatever reason he came in here and didn't do a good job marrying his offense to the personnel that he had. But, Mario Cristobal has a hand in that too. He's the head coach. It's his job to make sure it fits all correctly. And unfortunately, just a bad first year for Miami. But we'll see. I think, again, that's the feeling. And in the end, we'll see who ends up moving around.
Yeah, that's that'll be interesting to see what kind of changes are being made for the Canes, because I think it's incredibly important that you have coaches that are able to adjust to what you have and not kind of force the square peg in the round hole, because unfortunately sometimes you're gonna have an overall plan for something, and it's not going to succeed because something didn't go the way you thought. Somebody's or a player or two is completely different than what you thought, and then you've got to adjust as a coach. And I just thought he didn't do a really good job of that, and I would hope that that you get somebody that's going to adjust with what's going on at the moment. Talk to me a little bit about Cormani. What's the latest update? And I got to tell you, this is now starting to feel like every time we go overboard with one of these guys, it's like that player never really turns out to be a really good player. It's just, I hate when we go through this whole thing that it's a soap opera until the guy actually makes a stinking commitment.
Well, that's why when on signing day, I tried to write a column telling Miami fans, look, this shouldn't surprise you. There's always drama that happens, right? With guys, it feels like every year we go through a story with a different guy, and it's still a great class at Miami San, regardless of whether or not they get Cormani McLean, right? I mean, still super talented, one of the best that any coach has put together at Miami, and I like it especially because it addressed a huge need, which was size. There are a lot of the guys are big physical guys. When you watch Miami play, I think most of us in college football around the game are like, okay, that's not a very impressive looking team physically. I think Mario set out to do that, and he accomplished that in his class. So as far as Cormani McLean is concerned, again, last word that I had and conversations I've had with people in Lakeland is that Miami is still the place he wants to sign. Whether or not that happens on January 15th, as he said, I don't know. I mean, that's when he said the ceremony would take place. That's a Sunday. I don't know, if he can really sign the paperwork that he's assigned to go to Miami. It could be just a financial aid agreement, which you can sign with multiple schools. In the end, it matters where he is once summer classes start. To my understanding, he can't start classes at Miami in the early signing period. He can't start in the spring semester. He's going to have to wait till the summer. So really, this is a saga that even though we say January 15th and we keep saying that date over and over again, until that kid is on campus and in uniform, I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever.
We look at Ed Reed.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about Ed Reed's move to Bethune-Cookman, because there's a part of me that says, well, the prior coach kind of needed Ed Reed around. This coach really doesn't need Ed Reed around. And I'm just wondering, did Ed Reed feel like, yeah, I'm not really needed here, and moved on to another challenge? What
Yeah.
was the reasoning?
Well, I think for Ed, like Deion Sanders, they're guys that like being around the game in some capacity. And Deion, for years, was around his children. He wanted to see them grow up playing football. Shador and his older son as well. Shador's the star quarterback. And he just enjoyed that part of it, of being the football dad and being involved in their lives. And he basically went from, hey, I'm coaching the Under Armour All American game to let me get that bug and become a real college head coach at Jackson State, right? Well, I think Ed Reed's kind of been teetering in the same area, where he went and got a taste of it with the Buffalo Bills and Rex Ryan in around 2016, and has spent the last several years at Miami and kind of watching how the operation works behind the scenes, right? What does the head coach really have to do? Recruiting, what's that animal really like? And then I think ultimately, kind of like Deion, hey, this is my opportunity. Let me go to an HBCU that could really use me and needs the attention and needs somebody who could help them sort of shift the landscape a little bit. And so he went after it the same way. And, do I think Ed is as committed to the game as Deion was? Not necessarily. I think Deion was all in with the coaching thing. He really wanted to do it. He hired the staff around him. There were times when Ed would kind of be in the Miami building, and then other times he wasn't, where you're like, where's Ed Reed? He's not here today. I haven't seen him for a couple of weeks. So, and I know he's a businessman as well. He's got other things, his charities, things that he's involved in. So it'll be interesting to see. I know this from what I heard initially was he's going to have a good staff around him. People, a lot of good football people to help him make this transition. But I'm very interested to see how it works out for him, because in the end, you really have to want to do this job to be successful at it, and then have the financial support in a lot of ways, right? To bring some
Limited, right?
players.
That's what I was going to say. They got limited resources at Bethune-Cookman, bro. I mean,
Yeah, and Jackson State was essentially the same. I mean, Deion, when he came in there with his Amazon money and his Under Armour money and all that other kind of stuff, he had the sponsorship. I'm not saying Ed Reed doesn't have some people who will help him. I'm sure he will, but it's a different animal. I think Deion is just on a different level when it comes to all that other stuff.
oh yeah, no, there are very few people at Deion's level, dude. Very few people as the magnet that guy is. That's they only make a few of those kind of dudes, and
Mm-hmm.
Ed is not that kind of guy. I mean, maybe he'll film his Crown Royal commercials there. I don't know. I have no idea. No, I just thought it was kind of interesting. TCU Georgia, who you got?
Yeah, I sat there trying to break the game down earlier this week, and I really want to pick TCU because I'd love to see somebody different win the championship. Oh, but it's one of those deals where just physically, right? Like Georgia's bigger. They've got more of the
Loaded.
dudes. They've
Loaded.
got more of the dudes, and they kind of got. I think they kind of got the rust off of them escaping with the win last week against a very good, talented Ohio State team, who's just as talented as they are in terms of
Yeah.
blue chip players. So it's one of maybe those wake up calls, and I just think Georgia's going to show up and play like a different team in this game because they just played last week, and so you kind of have that. Okay, we don't have a month off type of feel to you. I think it'll be a different game from that perspective. And TCU, they're talented. Max Duggan is tough as hell. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do think Georgia's going to win and repeat as national champions.
So talk to us about the new facility that's going to be built.
Yeah, super loaded facility, 7 floors. Miami unveiled that earlier this week.
Where
And
the hell are they putting that? Where's the room for that?
well, they're moving stuff around, right? They've got to make room for it. I know the track, etc. All of those things, all of that land where the football fields are at the moment, things will be shifting around. I personally don't know exactly how they're going to do it. But I did have a conversation with someone last night. I got a phone call last night and was informed that the estimates of $100 million for this 7-floor facility that they're planning is under budget. That's not really what the number is. It's closer to 250 million because of the amount of sort of movements that they have to make. This isn't just, hey, one facility, you just there's this huge open area of land. You got to tear other stuff down. You got to move other things around. And so in the end, it's going to be closer to $250 million. I know the Florida Gators spent $85 million on their new football facility, but I don't think it's going to be half as nice as this one when you look at the renderings and some of the things. I mean, 7 floors of football facility with everything that's going to be in there. It's kind of crazy.
They got Coral Gables to agree on a 7-floor building.
Yeah, I mean, because it's on.
Think about that. Think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it costs a lot of money, right? And it grease the wheels, etc., to get everything done and get it rolling. And so, but look, this is something that when they went out to Mario and pitched him at Oregon and said, "Hey, come back home," one of the first things out of his mouth is how are we going to compete? Right? If I'm going to agree to this, we need to have what Alabama and Oregon and everybody else in the country has. And he only agreed to come coach this team because Miami agreed to give him everything he wanted in terms of budget, in terms of facilities. On-campus stadium, I think, is a hope as well. But I don't ever really see that happening. I'm skeptical whether or not that'll ever really come to fruition or whether or not it's really needed. I know John Ruiz and his people feel strongly that it is. I'm of the opinion that Miami played in the Orange Bowl for many, many years. Being close to campus played no factor whatsoever. Students, when they were home, they were home. And you have an on-campus basketball arena that Jim Larinaga works hard to fill, and there are nights when it's empty. So I think we need to all come to the realization that winning on the field at Miami requires great players, great coaching, and a little bit of positive momentum. I feel like, when Mark Richt had it, when they went 10-0 and they started that positive momentum, it just like stopped, right? Like all of a sudden, 3 straight losses and you're back to where you were. And that's,
see, the thing is, John Ruiz, great dude, great heart. Okay, obviously, because he's willing to help a lot of people.
Yep.
And he doesn't have to do this. He can keep all his billions and he doesn't have to share it or anything like that. And he's doing it. So God bless him. But he's a little jaded, because he can afford to send all of his kids to the University of Miami, but most of us can't. And so it's funny because I was at a bar the other day and we were talking about this with one of the owners, and he was telling me, well, we don't get as packed for the UM games. And I said, well, that's because they're not that good. And UM is the 6th pro team in town. And he goes, huh? And I go, yeah. I go, most people don't go to the University of Miami. Most of us can't send our kids there. We send them to FIU, FAU, or we'll send them to Florida State for less money. Yep. Okay? So they don't get to go there. What you see at the University of Miami is half the people are from out of this country when you walk onto that campus. And then the other half, they're from all over the United States, and they're from families that have money. Or look, my daughter did a semester there, but she did it strictly on scholarship, okay? Right. They gave her a dorm and everything, gave her a room and everything, but it was all scholarship. There's no way I could afford to send her there. That was purely on her own merits. Right. So she got there. And so that's the only way a lot of us could ever send our kids there, is if they get a scholarship or something to go there. Outside of that, we send them everywhere else. So you don't build a great alumni base. Right. The University of Miami has a shitty alumni base in South Florida compared to FIU and FAU. They have monster alumni bases. Why? Because a lot of these people, they get their degrees and they go back to their own towns in this country, or they go out of the country with that degree and they're out of here. And so we treat them like a pro team, because most of the people in the stands never went to the University of Miami, never even stepped on the campus. Put it that way. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. That's what's different. That's what I would, tell anybody. Ruiz too. We're a pro team, basically. And so when you're good, you'll fill it up. Hard Rock Stadium is more than enough, because they're all not coming from the campus. In fact, very few of them are coming from the campus to the stadium. Oh, and by the way, the ones that come from the campus, they've got their Mercedes and their Acuras and their Toyotas and their Benzes and all. They can drive to the stadium, okay? You don't need an on-campus, because all these kids are eating cold pizza in the morning from getting drunk the night before because they've only got $2 in their pockets, and they're going over to the game wasted. No, they don't have that luxury here of having 50,000 people inside, your your school at the moment that they could just walk over to the stadium and fill half of it right away. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just we're a different monster, dude. Than I think USC is a little bit like that too, right? Don't they
Yeah,
have
I mean,
kind of
there's yeah. I mean, they play obviously at the Coliseum, right? That's where they've been for many, many, many years, and
aren't they private too?
yes, they are,
Right, that's
and
what I mean. Like they most people there can't send their kids there, so it's really treated
it,
like a pro team. Like when they're good, they're packing it in, and when they're
yeah.
not, there'll be 40,000 in a 100,000 seat stadium. You know, whatever.
Yeah, and like Miami, there's a lot of things to do in LA, right? There's a lot of other
Right.
distractions and a lot of other places to be, and so, yeah, I think Miami just has to sort of embrace who it is, and I think they're putting the money in the right places. You know, they're
I
putting it into
agree.
the coaching staff, they're putting it into the facilities, all the things that you need to have to at least compete on that front. Look, I know John Ruiz. In the end, look, if he can build himself a stadium
Oh
somehow,
yeah.
good, more
Oh yeah.
power to you. Go ahead. Yeah,
His crazy ass will do it, bro. Of course. It's awesome.
right,
He's driven, he's committed. It's awesome.
right.
But is it really needed? No, dude. It's not for the University of Miami. It's actually really not needed.
And I
You know.
think, there's nothing wrong with being a university that can take pride in having a 8,000 seat basketball arena and try to fill that, right? There's nothing wrong with trying to fill 30,000 seats with alumni and students every Saturday. That there's nothing to be ashamed of. You don't need to be 100,000. You can't be Michigan if you just
Right.
aren't Michigan, right? If
Yeah.
you just don't have that amount of a support system, that's just what you are. And in the end, like you said, it's a pro team. This is a pro town. We all jump on the bandwagon when we need to jump on the bandwagon, and that's just the way it is.
Yep. That's it. And look at basketball. Basketball for me has lost a little bit its luster. And that's why he's not filling it anymore. Because if he was good and we were talking about basketball 20 years ago, then the place would be packed because the talent would be completely different than it's in the building. Now, I just think college basketball nowadays, maybe it's just me because I'm biased in my views of it. It's just not that entertaining and not that sexy anymore.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
would imagine a lot of people my age kind of feel that same way too.
Yeah, I think most people, just like the NBA, right? We don't pay attention until Christmas. I don't think most people pay attention to college basketball until February, until you get close to March Madness and you start looking, is my team going to get in?
Right.
Do they get into the tournament? How do they do in the conference tournament? Those kind of things. It's just an unfortunate the way the world works, man. It's just the way it is until football season ends. Not even saying college football, but the NFL. I feel like basketball just doesn't really fall on the map.
No, you're right about that. All right, you told us where you're going. What are you working on there at the Athletic?
Well, we just put out a new roundtable, recruiting roundtable. I'm working with Ari Wasserman and Mitch Light, my editor, and Grace Rayner, another one of the national recruiting writers. I told you I'm taking on more of a recruiting approach here at the Athletic, so we just put that out today. I've got a couple of other stories. I'll be at the coaching convention. So a lot going on. I got a mailbag. If you have questions for me from a state perspective, I mean, FSU, UF, USF, UCF. I got a bunch of UCF and USF questions. A lot of USF and UCF fans over at the Athletic. So I'll be answering those early next week. Just busy time, man. Everybody thinks, oh, football season's over, go vacation. Nah, it's like the NBA now in the sense where it's a year round. You're following free agency. There's a lot going on with players visiting Miami in terms of transfers and Miami looking at defensive tackle, cornerback. So there'll be stuff coming along the lines there.
By the way, one question for you on the way out. Rosendo asked Manny, after this crappy season, what steps is Mario convincing these top recruits to come?
Well, what is he doing to convince him? He's telling him there's a ton of playing time available because I don't like the guys that are here. I mean, I think if you were to give Mario Cristobal truth serum and say, hey, let us know how you really feel about the majority of the guys on this roster, he'd probably only keep 15 or 20 of them, in terms of guys that he thinks fits the mold for him and can help this university get to where it wants to go. So he's trying to flip the roster as best as he can. It's just one of those deals where you got to get to that. It's like a progressive deal. It's going to take 2-3 years to really wash things out. And I think, a lot of guys in this recruiting class came to Miami because they know they can get on the field quickly. They know the coaching staff really wants them. And for a lot of players, that's what it's all about. It's, does this guy believe in me and is he going to play me? And he's able to sell that pretty easily.
By the way, on the way out, Lenny Pena says, Big O, you're right. I'm a UM fan, been for years, and I've only driven by the UM campus on my way to the Grove. LOL.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with loving something and just being a fan from afar. I mean, there's no rules to fandom. I mean, everybody loves to criticize Miami fans and say, "Oh, they leave the stadium early. They only show up for the big games." I can tell you on social media and everywhere else. Oh, you and I know this. I mean, the fandom, the passion for it is always there. It's just, we got other lives, man. We can't afford. We're not all millionaires who can afford to buy tickets and be, at the campus every other day. I mean, there's a lot of normal people that live in South Florida.
Amen. Amen. What do you got for us, Sean?
I wanted to ask Manny a question.
Go ahead.
Did you see the Mark Pope thing with Deion Sanders?
I saw somebody sent me a message with it. I started watching it last night, the first of the 4 parts, and honestly, I was falling asleep because it's so much coach talk and so much BS of just repeating, cliche type content that I was falling asleep. But I did not see the actual segment where he rips Pope, but I heard about it, and look, I mean, this is what he's about, right? He wants to show that he's get about being correct and being right and running the team the right way. I know it was embarrassing as hell for Mark Pope from what I heard, and am I surprised? Not in the least. I think a lot of coaches do that.
What happened? I don't know.
Essentially, what he did was in front of the team. I think he asked, he told them that Pope was sort of a poison on the roster,
a cancer to the team.
And I guess I don't know what he was doing behind the scenes, missing meetings, doing whatever it was behind the scenes. And then he asked the team, should we keep him around? And I think they basically voted him off the island. So,
okay.
He dismissed him from the team right there in the room.
Right.
Wow. All right. So that video's out there of Cristobal doing that?
Yeah. The one I saw was only 30
Deion
seconds.
Sanders.
Yeah, Deion Sanders.
Oh, Deion Sanders.
At Jackson State.
At Jackson State, correct.
Oh. Okay.
Because the Amazon Coach Prime show, so it's a clip from that.
Oh, okay. I've never watched that. Okay. See, okay.
4-part series, though. I will warn you, it is a little sleep-inducing, a little too much cliche for me, and maybe it's because I'm too involved with football and around these guys. I just hearing the same thing over and over again kills me. But that part, I guess, was entertaining because he dismissed the guy from everybody.
Tough love is not an easy thing to practice in today's world.
No. And look, I think most coaches. It's a tough line to sort of toe because you don't want to lose the room. And the one thing I hear over and over again from these guys is these kids are different. They're a little more sensitive. You show them tough love, they may crumble on you. Whereas back in the day, it was a different sort of mentality.
Amen. All right. Follow him on Twitter, Manny_Navarro. And catch his work there at The Athletic. Better yet, subscribe and catch him twice a week here doing his thing with the Canes, where Miami Hurricanes report. Manny, as always, thank you, my brother. Appreciate you.
All right, I'll take care, man. See you guys.
You got it. There you go. The great Manny Navarro. All right. That's our Canes, where Miami Hurricanes report.